I think what surprised me the most is just how vulnerable all of the leaders got. I think from the outside, it's really easy to see like this big, powerful, they've got their life together. They really are making moves in the industry, making, like we've said many times, making those big decisions. And so they just seem like really out of reach. But then when we get the chance to sit down with them, they're just like human.
Welcome to the Cultivating Leaders Podcast, where we get inside the minds of leaders to harvest great ideas and lessons that help you grow as a difference maker in food and agriculture. I'm your host and curiosity captain, Nicole. This week, we're doing things a little bit differently. I am sitting down with our producer, the superwoman behind the scenes, Savannah Nichols, and we're going to take a trip down memory lane. With this episode, we are going to officially put a wrap on season 1 of the Cultivating Leaders Podcast. And we wanted to just spend some time together reflecting on our favorite moments, some ahas that we've had in talking to these leaders, and the inspiration that we've gotten producing this podcast. So if you have not listened to every episode, this is going to be your SparkNotes version, and hopefully we'll tell you which episodes to go back and listen to. Okay, Savannah, let's dive in. First of all, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on this side of the podcast this week. So thank you.
Me too. I'm so excited to have you here. One of the things that I have thought about, Savannah, as we started this journey with the podcast is, for me, it has been a way to, like, if you could pick the brain of some of the top leaders in agriculture, what questions would you ask them? And that's kind of how I have framed this. And man, have we gotten to talk to some incredible people. Do you know the number of episodes? I feel bad that I don't.
This will be 21.
21.
So 20 industry leaders.
20 industry leaders from, people who have been in Congress and the White House type of leaders negotiating, trade policy, to professional development folks, to, some TEDx speakers and great authors and people who are just honestly leading commodity work. Business owners. We've also had those on the pod. So a big variety of folks that we've gotten to talk to. Savannah, I'm curious for you. Let's start with big key takeaways. What have been some of your favorite takeaways as you've heard our different leaders talk this year?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is such a tough question because I feel like after every episode, I'm like, wow, that was my favorite episode. That was the best interview we've had. But I say that every week. But with that, I think we do have a few good takeaways that a lot of guests have consistently said. I think one that really stands out to me is that being a good person and being a good leader go hand in hand. A lot of our guests have said you have to have these key elements or these key skills to be a good leader. But then if you exhibit these skills, then you're also, in the eyes of others, are seen as a good person.
Yeah, and a lot of them talked about self-reflection and how important that piece of it is. Oh gosh, Corey Cachetti, who we just talked to a couple of weeks ago, talking about going on a walk and asking yourself tough questions. Or, as we've talked about to some of these leaders and the hard decisions they've had to make. I know Matt Plitt talked about hiring his own coach. A lot of them have talked about self-reflection and thinking about who you want to be, grounding in those values, and then working to constantly get better to act on.
Yeah, lots of self-reflection. I like how you brought up Corey because he was one of my favorite speakers when I was a student at Leaders Conference. And so I was really excited to get to dive in with him for this episode. And he talked a lot about going on walks without anything. And that's really scary, right? Well, taking that into action for ourselves, I've been doing just a 20-minute walk every couple of days. And it's crazy. It actually makes you think, evaluate the things that you're doing every day. So a good little action item for everybody.
I love that you've put it into action too, because I'm with you. Thinking about going on a walk or a run without my headphones, I just got a little bit of a stomach ache even thinking about that. But it's really beneficial as a part of self-reflection. One of the takeaways for me, Savannah, has been the ability to deal with pain and painful conversations and painful feedback, or just the humanity of some of these folks who make really tough decisions. So whether it was Diana Kander, who talked about going and interviewing people who basically relationships had soured with, I think people she'd fired and stuff like that, basically doing a survey of hey, our relationship didn't work out professionally. Tell me what's wrong with me, to gather feedback for herself. Or, Juliana just being really honest and vulnerable about her experience in leading meat packers through COVID. And like, yeah, there were some days that I wanted to quit. To the number of folks, whether it's, I think Courtney Dehoff has talked about this and a couple of other of them did, where it's like, yeah, I doubted myself. The shared experience that we all have it's one thing, I think, being courageous is part of being a leader, but also knowing that like courage is moving forward while still feeling fearful or unsure of yourself. It's been so incredible to hear the vulnerability of so many of these folks, knowing that like, hey, just because we see them on a stage or they have a fancy CEO title doesn't mean they don't deal with the same like internal struggles that all of us do.
Yeah, I definitely, being like early on in my career, find it really inspiring because like I even have like hard days or like times that I just like don't want to make a lot minor decision than what these leaders are making. I struggle with those, and so it's really inspiring for me to hear them say, yeah, we've had those hard days too, and this is how you overcome it, and you can still beat the hard days. Like you can still like make it to the top or chase your dreams with overcoming these hard days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's inspiring to me too, as someone's further on in my career. I'm curious your take on this, but one of the themes that has come up for me is the value of mentorship. And I think we all hear that, right? Like you need a good mentor in your life. But a lot of these folks, we've asked them, like, how did you get where you're at? And so many of them have stories of people who have poured into them or given them a leg up or said, like, hey, I think you would be good at this. Go do it. Just the value of, oh gosh, who was it? David Nothman, I think, was talking about, your personal board of directors and how important having people who are further along in their careers say, hey, here's either give you hard feedback or, give you a leg up, or just building those relationships, and how critical that has been to each of these leaders that we've talked to and them getting where they're at. Curious your take on it.
Yeah, I will say that's one of the things that is like the most intimidating to me when I think about leadership, because if you know me, I'm a pretty shy person and don't really like to ask for help. And so every time we have that conversation, I'm like, Savannah, you need to just ask somebody, take that step. They're not going to say no. Leaders up above me in their career want to help and want to extend that arm to people starting their career, but it definitely intimidates me. That's maybe one of my challenges as we go and kind of wrap this episode up, is like finding like even one person to kind of start in, because I know almost all of the leaders that we have interviewed have all said that this person helped me, or like I've had this mentor for this, I've had a coach, which to me is pretty similar, to help them and guide them and kind of even just be a sounding board for them. So definitely a very valuable skill and one that I need to personally work on.
Yeah, yeah. Any other big takeaways you've had as we have talked to so many great people?
Yeah. One thing that just like is always encouraging to me, especially where we work a lot with student leaders and kind of that younger generation, next generation, as we like to call them, of agriculture leaders, is they're all super excited. I think sometimes being in that younger generation where you get told, oh, your generation isn't great, you guys don't have the skills or whatever it is to keep advancing the industry. But hearing all these leaders so excited about the future of agriculture and the skills and abilities that my generation is going to bring to this industry and help advance it and like bring those new technologies and really lean into that and be able to continue to feed the world and all the challenges that come. So that's very encouraging for me.
I love that you said that, because it's the other side of mentorship. Is like all of them have talked about the mentors that they have had, and all of them are so willing to like, hey, what can I do for the people coming up behind me to make it easier, to make it better, to help them. Whether it is, talking with Scott Stump, who is talking about the next generation of FFA members, or sneak peek, the first person that we've interviewed for season 2, she talked about this, but creating a more inclusive environment for different types of people in agriculture, whether that be women having an easier time than some of these tenured leaders have had, or just opening up agriculture to a more diverse, different group of people, getting more people at the table. All of these leaders are people who are willing to pull other folks up the ladder as they continue to climb it themselves.
Yeah. And it's awesome to see.
Mm-hmm. Makes me really excited about the industry that we get to work in. All right, Savannah, I could keep talking about key takeaways as we, stroll down memory lane. What surprised you about this podcast and the people we've talked to?
I think what surprised me the most is just how vulnerable all of the leaders got. I think from the outside, it's really easy to see like this big, powerful, they've got their life together. They really are making moves in the industry, making, like we've said many times, making those big decisions. And so they just seem like really out of reach. But then when we get the chance to sit down with them, they're just like human, want to tell their story and want to give advice and little great nuggets of leadership for our listeners to hopefully help make their leadership journey better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have been surprised at the diversity of the different paths that people have taken to get where they're at. Like, we've talked to a lot of CEOs, a lot of high powered leaders, and there is a lot of different ways to get there. There's not one right path. Some of them I think talked about like they Matt Plitt, I loved his confidence. He's like, yes, I always knew that I wanted to get here and I didn't doubt myself. And there are other people that are like, I never thought I would be here. I still can't believe that I'm here today. And folks who are like, I didn't plan this, but I saw a need in the industry and so I chased after it. I think Jessie Jarvis is a good example of this in Of the West, She chased something and was like, I feel like I'm feeling a need. I never expected to do this, but this is what I'm doing now. And others who, because of the relationships that they built, got opportunities that they never expected. And I think that what's been neat as we pick these leaders' brains is that there is not one blueprint, but there's lots of blueprints. And you may even bounce between them throughout your career. And so I think that's been surprising in a good way to see that there's a lot of different ways to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that makes me just think of like all the choices that we can make. You're never really making the wrong choice. It's just like this choice is going to take you in this direction. And we can see that through all of our guests. They're telling us the choice that they made, but they probably had 2, 3, 4 other choices that they could have made. But that choice that they made took them there. And like, who knows where the other choices would have been? It was the right choice that they made.
Oh, that is a great take, Savannah. I love like snaps for that. Love it.
I don't like making decisions, so I've like had to teach myself. You just have to make a choice, go with it, and it'll be the right choice.
That's been kind of perfect, I think, for where you've been at in life too right now. You've had a lot of big changes. You never know where it's going to take you, but to know that it's the right choice. Good grounding piece. Okay, I think one more key theme that just came to mind for me that is woven throughout these leaders that we've talked about is the importance of culture. And I think a lot of people talk about this when you talk about leadership and what good culture looks like and how important culture is and all of that. It is clear to me that one, it starts at the top. Whether you're a team lead or whether you're a president of your FFA chapter or you are CEO, it's got to start with you and it's got to live in the people that you lead. And I think that a lot of the people we've talked to are also culture makers in some way, not just in the organizations that they lead, but in the industry. And I think Courtney DeHoff might even be a good example of this, right? A lot of times, you've heard me say this, I say at AFA, we're working on the culture part of agriculture, which is often the people and the people development piece of it. I think that as I think about the future of agriculture, this gets me very excited in the way that these people have talked about what a good workplace looks like, what leading in agriculture looks like, how we be more welcoming and inviting and have a more diverse group of people at the table, and how that's going to help us be successful as an industry.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we talk a lot offline about is the culture. And we've had a lot of, I think every time a guest brings up culture and like how they really focus on like bringing the right culture to their workplace, we always talk about it after like, wow, their take on culture was so cool. And we love how they're bringing like diversity into their culture and like really challenging their employees with diversity and how powerful it is to have a good culture to make your people and your employees like be the best that they can be, because it's evident that a lot of the guests we have interviewed recognize that like a safe, positive culture within the workplace helps their employees be the best that they can and bring their best foot forward. So I think that's really awesome to see that they're so focused on like helping their employees be the best that they can be.
All right, Savannah. So we are putting a wrap on season 1 with this episode, but what can listeners expect for season 2?
Yes. So we have had 20 great guests on the podcast. We are kind of putting a wrap on season 1, tying it off with a nice little bow. But we are super excited to kick off season 2. And we have some great guests lined up. You alluded earlier that we have interviewed one of our guests already. And I'm just going to say it might be my favorite episode, but I've said that many times.
Same.
That conversation was very inspiring, very impactful, and really makes you think. So I can't wait for everyone to hear that. But you can expect more great industry leaders, more challenges for you as you navigate your career, and just some awesome advice on being a great leader, being a great person, and just being great.
When are we going to come back, Savannah? We're going to take a break. You and I are going to go to Ireland separately. We're not going together. I mean, we do like each other a lot, but we're going separately because go Cats. We're going to go see the Cats play in Ireland, and you're going to go on your honeymoon. So you and I are going to take a break. We're going to go have some fun across the pond. And then when can people expect the Cultivating Leaders podcast to come back?
We'll be back October 1st.
All right, so we're going to take a month off. We're going to interview some more guests. I'm also going to say to anyone listening, if there is a leader that you want us to interview, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and send an email to marketing@agfuture.com if you have a recommended guest that you would like to see us talk to, or a different type of guest. We're always looking for great people to include in this podcast. You can also feel free to message us on social too. That's how you'll get direct contact with Savannah as well. If you send them a DM to any @agfuture, whether we're on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we'd love to hear from you if there's a leader whose brain you'd love for us to pick. All right, Savannah, this would not be a Cultivating Leaders podcast episode without a rapid fire segment. So we are going to both do this. If you could sum up the season in one word, what would it be?
My word is growth.
My word is, I'm going to do 2, cup filling. This really, every time we interview a leader, this fills my cup, and I feel inspired. If you had to pick a favorite conversation, which one was it and why?
Okay, I think I could say so many different ones for different reasons, but if I just look at full scope of it surprised me, it challenged me, I still think about it often, probably our episode with Matt Plitt. I didn't know who he was prior to this, and I was just surprised that all of the great nuggets, the confidence, just his mindset and outlook on being a great leader was very inspiring to me. So I always go back to that one.
Oh, Matt's going to love that. Okay, mine is for the same thing of like, I feel like we talked great things about leadership. This person had a great story, but also, at least for me personally, like his experience in agriculture and his take on what the future looks like from a true like farm application standpoint. It's a great episode, and that would be our episode with Teddy McKelly. I still think about it. He's the chief technology officer for Land O'Lakes, and his perspective on how to lead people, how to lead change. He had some really great nuggets on like good coffee recommendations. The man is obviously a foodie, but I constantly think about his take on saying that a lot of farmers are not technically savvy. And he's like, no, farmers are good business people, and that they are going to implement technologies when it's a good business decision. It's our job to make sure that it's a good business decision for them. I still think about that one.
Yeah, he had a really neat outlook on just the future and farmers and leadership. It was very good.
And again, that's super hard. There's a lot of favorites in there in this season. Okay, what is one interview that challenged you to be a better leader?
I think on this one was Juliana Potts with the Meat Institute. She, I think, just being like a powerhouse woman in the ag industry, and just like hearing her story of going just from her early career to now this place and really filling that need within the industry, and all of the just like finding new ways to navigate this industry that's been around for so long. She just has so much class and so much confidence in herself. I was fangirling when we got to chat with her, so I was surprised me because it was so great.
You stole mine. I also was going to say Juliana. She is phenomenal. If your brain works like Savannah and mine, and you also love the protein industry, and you haven't listened to Juliana Potts' episode, go do it. So I'm going to pick a different one, and I'm going to say Diana Kander. Her take on dealing with feedback hit me at just such a wonderful time in my own career journey, and her just like perseverance. She has such an incredible story. Being an immigrant from, I feel really bad, I might get this wrong, I think she's from Ukraine, immigrating to the United States, and the good that her and her husband do, and the way that she challenges people to think differently. Man, Diana's episode really inspired me and motivated me in a lot of ways to think about myself as a leader differently and to lead differently.
Yeah, she was awesome.
What is a leadership tool you have taken, or at least is on your list? And you can't take the walk because you've already done that one. But we've had a lot of people recommend different tools or different ideas or that kind of thing. What's a tool that you have tangibly gotten from our guests?
Okay. I think one of the biggest tools that I gained is just be so in tune with where you're at, but also like aspire for the next thing. We've had a couple conversations around this idea. The job that you have now is like where you're supposed to be, and you're probably in it because you haven't learned everything that you need to be and that you need to learn, and like there's still more room for you to grow in where you're at, but that shouldn't stop you from like growing and continuing to look into the future and like setting big dreams and setting big goals so that you have something to reach that's maybe 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of where you are today.
Oh, such a good take, Savannah. We have someone so smart behind the Cultivating Leaders podcast. But that was a good one. You're right. Several of them mentioned, like, love where you're at in your career. Love the job you have now. I think Courtney at BASF said that. I think maybe Teddy said that too. Yeah, good take on a tool. Now mine feels silly compared to yours because that was so profound. Because I was going to say, I'm a reader, and I believe leaders are readers. And so Ellen's recommendation of The Alchemist as a book, that's my favorite tool that I have taken. I love a good book. She talked about how she reads it once a year. I have really enjoyed it. So that's one very tangible tool I've taken. Lots of internal philosophies that I have adopted as well. But if I had to say a tangible tool, it's that one.
That's very fitting for you as well, because
yeah, you're so surprised, right?
we were keeping track at the beginning of the first few episodes of how many times Nicole had read a book that they had recommended or was adding it to her list. I think we came up with like almost 10 in the first like 5 episodes. So very fitting.
My Goodreads grows every time we talk to a new person on this podcast. And Adam Carroll, I think our very first episode, he was recommending a book that I had just read. Yes, you're right. Okay, Savannah, so let's end this on hot takes. Because we love unconventional, bold opinions. After listening to all of our podcast guests' hot takes, I am curious, do you have one of your own now? And this is a hot take on leadership or the future of agriculture. Sorry, if anyone's listening to this as their first episode, that's what these hot takes are about.
I think I would say just that like anything is possible. Like listening to all their stories, they just like set their mind to it and like knew that they could do it, or maybe they didn't and they just kind of like went for it anyway. Just anything is possible as you set your mind to it.
It's such an optimistic hot take. Anything is possible. I gotta think about what mine is. Ooh, and I think we've had a couple leaders talk about this. Jessie was probably the one who hit the closest to this when she talked about her hot take about, I think it was moving for jobs and being willing to move for jobs. I think that we have not done a good enough job of making it clear what networking looks like for the next generation. And if young people in their career are listening to this, especially if you're a college student, my hot take is that a lot of people think that the way you get a job or the way you move up in your career is applying for the next thing. You send in the resume and you wait for the magic to happen. And that is not at all how it works. It is building relationships. It's getting to know people. It's being vulnerable and asking for help. That's how you get the job. That's how you move up. That's how you get to the next thing. And I think in this world of like AI, and I see so many young people frustrated of like, I got the college degree, I applied for the jobs, I haven't heard back. What's next? Like, what am I doing wrong? And it's networking, like I think a lot of us, you get the boomer advice, and this is not to call out boomers, but like go into that office and shake someone's hand when you drop off your resume. That doesn't work anymore. But being in the industry and going to events and getting to know people and talking to them and sitting down and having dinner with them. Or gosh, Katie, our guest, talked about the power of golf. That doing those things and having those conversations is how you get the job. It's how you move forward. It's not just having, I'm not saying that resumes aren't important, because they are, but that's how you break through. And my hot take is that I think there's a lot of people out there who have so much potential to be successful, but are waiting for it to feel like the boxes have been checked. I followed the rules. Now, where's my cookie? Here, where's my reward? And it's like, now you got to go out there and make it with real life people and real life conversations.
Dang, that was hot, spicy. I liked it.
Yeah, mine's a little more spicy than yours.
Yours is really good little reminder for everybody who is navigating for their next job or career.
Yeah, the job market's weird right now, but I think there's more that people could be doing, and that, in this Zoom world, and I say this as someone who works from home, and has for 3 out of the 4 jobs of my career, you can still do a lot of relationship building from behind a computer. It can happen.
A simple email. We've heard a lot of that.
Ooh.
Just send a simple email.
Oh, yeah. Send a simple email, send a LinkedIn DM. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these people are willing to help, which I think gives me a lot of hope too for where we're headed next in agriculture. And for anyone who feels like they're struggling, or whether it's trying to get a job or just trying to get to the next thing, or struggling to love where they're at, there's a lot of people out there willing to help. All right, Savannah, so let's put a wrap on season 1 of the Cultivating Leaders podcast. For anyone who is listening, and who has listened to this podcast, thank you so much. We're so glad that you're along this journey with us. We'd love to hear from you. We would love for you to help other people find this podcast. If you would be willing to leave us a review, to share it with your friends, that means the world to us. That's how we get to reach more people with great advice for all the different speakers out there in agriculture. So, Savannah, while we are on break, where can people continue to find information from us, little leadership snippets, great nuggets that are going to help them move forward in their journey as a leader in agriculture?
Yeah, I think the best place to find all of that is on our social channels, Ag Futures or Agriculture Future of America, depending on the social that you like the most. But we have some exciting blogs and little recaps on some of our episodes and big takeaways that will be rolling out throughout the rest of the August and September. So keep an eye on those, because if you need a little leadership boost while we're gone, those will be a great place for you to go refresh on the wonderful conversations that we've had this season.
I'm going to do one more plug, because I don't think we've talked about this, Savannah. The other place that folks can connect with us is through Magnetic Ag. If you are looking, anyone who's listening to this podcast is a leader, you want to stay up to date on the news in food and agriculture, you need to have Magnetic Ag in your inbox. It is a twice-a-week newsletter that delivers the news in a very fun and funny way. So if you are not already a Magnetic Ag reader, really going to recommend that you head over to magneticag.com and sign up for that, because it'll be a good filler in between the time that we're taking a break.
Yes, always a good little inbox read.
Yeah, I will say this confidently. No one needs another email newsletter in your inbox. We all have a lot of those, but Magnetic is the one that you want. You actually want it there. Awesome. Well, Savannah, thank you so much, first of all, for your work on this podcast, because it would not happen without you. You are the reason that I am able to ask the great questions that I get to ask, and that we get to hear from so many of the wonderful leaders we get to on this podcast. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes. And thanks for a great season. And I can't wait to see you and everyone else in season 2.
Well, thank you. It's been a fun little journey that we've had this season, and I'm so excited for what's to come.
All right. We'll see you next season.